Hello and welcome to Chat the Chief. My name is Katie Hillary and I am joined by Stephen Wasik and Albert Bean. Excited to talk to you guys today about ego and pride. It's a meaty one. It's a good one. Let's talk about what ego is, what pride is, and then dive into the difference between the two before we kind of chop wood on some other topics.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, really important concept to get out there and to understand. I'll talk about ego. Let's sort of define it, and let's talk about the right way to talk about ego, because ego is really important to human beings, and it's actually kind of like gravity. We can't not have ego, or the whole world would sort of like melt. So it is important that we have a little ego. There's two ways we could think about it, though, and I think we'll get a good definition here. So ego psychologically, Freud, there's the id, the ego, and the superego. Your id is like your caveman brain, like I want that. Your superego is like, is it right to want that?
Brain,
or cave woman, sorry.
Thank you.
Cave women, there were cave women. Your superego is it right to want that? It's like your higher order self-actualize, and then the ego is like the executive decision maker in the middle, right? So that's the psychology of it. Today, though, I think when we talk about ego, we'll talk about ego a little bit more through the lens of self-centeredness. Ego is when you let that executive decision maker in your brain become so much of the focus that other things, I don't know, like other people, are not the focus. That's how I would define ego, and how we'll talk about it today. Ego being this very self-centered, you are the focus.
Yep, self-motivated.
More the big fat jerk.
What do you think about that? You agree with that?
Yeah,
on the ego front?
Ego is like you're the big fat arrogant jerk.
That's right.
Yeah.
He went Freud, you went big fat jerk. Got it.
That's right.
Well, because when we over-index toward that executive decision maker, that's what happens. We become that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. On the pride element, and these two things are so close. But I guess the healthy version of pride is self-respect. And the healthy version of pride is you have got confidence in yourself, and that's wonderful. And I think everybody, if you work really hard at something and accomplish some hard thing, it's great to feel proud of that. Where that tilts very quickly and very easily into the unhealthy version of pride is just where you're so also sort of self-centered. You can do no wrong. You are blinded by any kind of feedback. You're blinded by any kind of correction. I mean, we all have, I think it was maybe C.S. Lewis that said, we all have pride. And the second you think you don't have pride is when you have pride. And he said, I think he said pride is the one trait everybody has and discuss, but everybody has it. Everybody has it. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing to know that you have it. And again, there's very healthy versions of it, but it's keeping that in check to where you don't, again, come across as also sort of arrogant and not ever wanting any feedback and not able to grow. Because I think that's probably the ultimate killer. If you are too proud, you cannot grow.
Right.
If you're too proud, you cannot learn. Why would you ever want to learn if you think you have it all figured out? Why would you ever want to be curious if you're too proud? You think you got it all. And so you will not grow. You will ultimately just wither.
Yeah, like the healthy pride is as having that confidence, but balancing it with curiosity, where you're proud, you're confident in what you can bring to the table, but you're also curious as to how you could get better.
To be curious, in a sense, means that you can't be proud. To be curious means that I don't know something, I need to learn something. A super prideful person would never think that.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, I do know. I don't need to learn.
But the word pride is so interesting because the same word, there are a few words like this, but the same word pride can be used in a sentence and mean something negative, but also can mean something super positive. Like I was raised to say, Katie, take pride in your work.
I was about to say, take pride in your work.
So that was we said that in my household all the time. Like, take pride in this. But then one of our leadership behaviors is fight pride and be humble. And so that's saying like, fight it. Yeah. Do not don't be too proud. So it's just an interesting, there's like a nuance and there's almost like an invisible motivation behind it that determines whether or not it's healthy and productive or bad and too much.
But isn't it interesting how we all recognize pride in the unhealthy pride in somebody else when we see it?
Yes.
It's undeniable.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild because one of my favorite questions to ask a human is, what are you most proud of? In your life, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, and it brings a smile to the face.
I love it.
And
I love it.
There's a positive connotation with it.
But then very quickly, the reason I could dislike someone the most is because they are a proud person. So it's like,
their answer to that
what is going on?
Totally.
What is happening? But I actually think a part of it is your greatest strength is right around the corner from your greatest weakness. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going on with ego and pride. Like, it is really important to have a level of these things.
Right.
Like, you got to have a self-esteem. You have to have a spine. You have to have a backbone. You have to have a belief in your beliefs. But overuse of this can quickly kind of ruin you.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Pride and ego, they're like first cousins or sisters or fraternal twins, just like very, very close to each other, but you can't let it cross over.
Steve, how do you, maybe you can't share this because we love our customers and we don't ever want to put any of them down, but maybe there's, talk about when companies have a vibe about them that is too prideful? Can they have a vibe about them that is too proud? And that is their brand. Their brand becomes too prideful.
100%.
Yeah. Any that come to mind?
I don't think I should name names.
It's redacted.
It would not be smart to name names, but it ties back to what you said, actually.
Yeah.
So I've actually got to do work with some elite brands and some elite companies. I won't name the name, but what can happen is you can feel that level of elite, like when you step foot in that culture. Uh-huh. And there's greatness in that culture. But then what you actually can also feel if you're not buying into that greatness and you're just watching it, is you're like, oh, you're going to miss something.
Yeah.
Because you're so bought into that greatness. You're so bought into the beliefs that got you to that greatness. Yeah. You're actually not living in reality. Yeah. You're living in this kind of distorted perception of reality, which is we are this elite because we're this prideful. And so
God, that is so dangerous.
It's just what happens though to the best companies out there. Yeah. Because we have been the best. And there's certain companies right now that we're all experiencing, and they maybe have the best market capitalization, or they're printing money because everybody wants to buy their chicken sandwiches. It's super hard not to be prideful and have an ego. And it takes like intentionality to go, wait a minute, what are we missing right now? Mm-hmm. Because everybody wants what we're selling.
It's so hard when everybody's telling you can't miss to be like, actually, I'm missing somewhere. Hold on, let me find it.
That's right.
The most morbid and worst outcome of that, did you guys watch the documentary on that submarine that imploded on itself? Do you remember
I haven't watched
watching
the documentary, but I remember, yes.
Yeah, like with bated breath, everyone's like, where is that submarine that's going down to the Titanic? So I watched it, and essentially, without using those exact words, that was the problem with the CEO, who was unfortunately on that submarine when it happened. But the documentary uncovers that he was just, an egomaniac. Like his way of doing things could not be questioned. It was an entire company culture around, nope, we're moving forward. Don't question this. My way is correct. Let's proceed. And they fired people who did not go along with the way in which he wanted to move forward. And that's the worst possible outcome. Yeah. Like and he had that elitist mentality.
But that's where that goes.
Yes.
Right? If you can't ever take feedback, if you can't ever learn, then you're on a collision course with something.
Yep. Yeah, that's wild. So when you're thinking about pride and ego showing up at work, whether it's for you personally or what you've witnessed with companies or employees, how do you see each of those showing up in productive and unhealthy ways?
I have one that I've noticed recently that I think is really important for us all to think about. Mm-hmm. I think ego tends to show up as certainty. And we talked about this a little bit before. When you see people in a room and they're certain, like you can actually really quickly
don't you feel it's kind of cringy?
Ego. Yes,
it's kind of you embarrassed from. You're like,
I love when you say cringy, Bert.
You're certain.
It's certainty. It's people who are
just kind of ran out of ways to make your argument.
So think about
like my kids. I'm certain. Okay.
And actually the worst version of this is not when there's one person that's certain. Because what you were talking about, Katie, that's one person who's very certain, who's very senior. Mm-hmm. And then that creates the cult-like company culture, get on board or don't. Mm-hmm. What's even worse sometimes is when there's a few people who are just certain. And then it's like that group is about to produce nothing.
Right.
When you have three people who are all dug in and certain, nothing good is going to happen. And then, it's wild. You could have three talented, smart, capable people, but they're all just dug into their beliefs and their way of doing. Butter side up versus butter side down. They're about to go create nothing in the world. But if you have people that you said, Bert, that are curious, people who are curious, I wonder if it could happen. How could we? How might we? I wonder if we should think this way. I wonder if I'm wrong. Then all of a sudden you can put like your strengths online and do something. Actually, you could create more value than you might otherwise would have.
I think that's really It's really hard because everybody knows I'm the only person that's allowed to be certain of anything. I'm kidding. But I'm right. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think it's so hard, especially for leaders that have to make decisions. And by the way, they kind of need to be the right decisions more times than not. You've got to say, we're going this way. And especially when there's debate, and there's all this stuff. I mean, you've got to, at some point, to your point, have that ego to say, this is what we're going to do. So I just think about maybe my own team. It's so important that you've got people around you that can be like, yeah, dude, you're thinking about this wrong. Because anybody, certainly myself, you can tilt in a way to where you're like, this is it. This is what we're going to do. I'm so convicted. You've got to have some voice around you, some person that you trust, that if they say something different, a lot of times for me, it's Sam Kaufman, I can kind of snap out of it sometimes in my own way to be like, oh, well, that's actually a good point. Yeah, you're probably right. And but it's if you don't have that, it's going to be hard for you as a leader.
And the key is too, can you be curious before you're certain? And can you, like, I think actually, Bert, I've watched you a lot. I think you can be so certain in a way where I'm like, dude, you really are confident? Okay. Because you were so curious first.
Oh,
and because
great.
you heard
that is exactly right.
You heard
that's
so
exactly
many people
right.
up and down the company, and you were really curious, and you actually called the person on the front line and said, how's this impacting you? And what do you think we should do? What's your biggest problem? You were so curious up and down so many times, then you can be so certain, which is what good leaders are going to have to do.
Yeah.
And Steve Jobs was so certain so many times. That's what defined him. Yeah, we're going to need to be certain. It's also like we have to be curious early and often.
Yeah.
And it's like, be very, very flexible with like how we're going to get there. Be certain about the outcome you want to go get or the destination you want to arrive to.
That's right.
Right.
How do you feel like you can balance that ego with the humility? I mean, I think that you're right about the self-awareness, also surrounding yourself with people who can check you and that you can trust. But if you're finding the balance and if you're putting yourself in a position where you are having to make these firm decisions, how do you really check yourself in knowing, okay, is this ego or is this too much pride, or am I doing this for the right reasons that are going to move us forward?
Helps to have early onset hair loss. I mean, that is more humbling than that. It's like a late 20s person be like, oh, I'm losing my hair. That is that. It's really, that's why I don't make any bald jokes. Deep down, it hurts our feelings.
And that's
humility.
Really
it's not cool.
It's really, guys, I can't do anything about it.
It's not cool.
I missed the boat on Propecia, started too late on Rogaine. It's gone.
There may or may not have been.
And it sucks.
And
there
now
may or
you
may
can't
not
go
have
to
been a
Turkey
genetic
because everyone would
discovery
notice.
Like
That's weird.
women can wear like fake hair more.
Correct.
Guys
the clip-ins, the
can't.
halo.
Guys
We've got
can't
so
really
many
do
options.
fake
Yeah,
hair.
we know. Unless you went full 80s band, like
just,
it doesn't work.
And people that do, guys that do fake hair, I'm like, man, now you're sort of like leaving me behind. Yeah. I don't like that.
I do like watching ESPN and making bets on which of the casters and which of the athletes have gone that route.
I also hate it when guys like Steve that have great hair shave their head. I'm like, see, now why are you doing that? This is my area, all right? Like, you're just like rubbing it in. You can grow that back. But no, question again, Katie, how do you balance?
Yeah, how do you balance it? How do you make sure that you're not crossing that line?
I think with anything, you got to try to. Well, okay. I mean, you get at a couple things. One, you've got to make it a priority. You've got to, that's always got to sort of be a thing there. But it's easy if you know who you are from an identity standpoint.
Yeah.
So if your identity is not wrapped up in what you do, well, then you have more flexibility to make the better decision, because not every decision lives or dies on it being the right decision, because what you do is your identity. If what you do is your identity, and if you make the wrong decision and what you do at work goes poorly, then your identity goes poorly, and then it's like you can't separate the two. But if you can have that objectivity, if your identity can be different from what you do, then I think that does help you not be so married to certain ideas or to certain beliefs.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I think about ego too, I think about that underlying motivation. And I think about an egomaniac. They make decisions that are self-serving. Okay, this decision is going to propel me forward, not necessarily doing it for the interest of the team.
That's right.
Or for the company. And so that does marry well with what you're saying. If everything and who you are is so wrapped up in what your role is in that company and that's who you are, then that does put a lot of weight, and that does probably push you to the edge of being egotistical.
Yeah. So another way of maybe saying getting right with your identity is getting right with what your values are.
Right.
And trying to write those out. Here are my values. And then you can make sure that how you're showing up every day or the decisions that you're making are in line with those values, which in some should be as a leader, raising up other people, being a great teammate, which all is sort of anti-ego.
It's funny to bring this person up as an answer to
are we
how
going
you
names?
Balance this. Well, we're going Steve Jobs. He's kind of known as an egomaniac, but there's this one thing that actually I heard him say that got to me on this topic of balancing. He said, I didn't create the language, the steel, the mathematics, or any of the foundational technologies, nor the social systems or freedoms that underpin anything I've built, right? And so that always kind of has got to me. Like any time.
Sorry, can you read that again? I was trying to.
No, he said.
I'm sure Katie caught it.
He basically said, I didn't create the language.
Steel, math.
He said, I didn't create the language. I didn't create the steel. I didn't do the foundational mathematics work. I didn't build the microchips, nor did I build the social systems or freedoms that have underpinned everything that we've done at Apple.
So you're saying, despite him being portrayed as an ego guy, he's saying that he actually is. You're saying he's a little bit humble because he's giving credit to others.
Yeah, like what I try to do in any moment where I did something is go, wait a minute, did I do that or did we do that?
Right.
Like we did that. I didn't do that. Like I didn't have that thought. That wasn't my thing. We're all kind of taking stuff and taping it together and working collectively to go advance stuff. So I think that helps balance.
But this I versus we is very practiced language. We've all, I just know you so well, and I know what amazing people you are, also great speakers and stuff. So I know we all know when you hear somebody that uses the word I a ton, it's like nails on a chalkboard, isn't it? You're like, oh, dude, that's just
happened to me in an interview.
It's almost like a four-letter word. You keep saying I.
Yes.
You're like, dude, don't say that.
Yes.
That's that pride thing. That's like we can all sort of see it on people, and it's hard, right? Because sometimes maybe it was you that had the idea for that, and maybe it was you that like put your shoulder to the wheel and got that done. Maybe it was you that actually built the team. And that's true, but you have to like weigh the pros and the cons. If you're going to turn more people away, if you're going to push more people away with that language, well, there probably were some other people that did help you. There probably was some other credit to go around. And you have to practice saying we. And I do think the more you say it, the more aware you become of that, the more priority that you make we instead of I. The more you can try to kind of keep that at bay, and the more you can be aware of it when it starts to happen.
That's so good, because one of the questions I wanted to ask, really both of you, but you're pulling on it right now, is how do you create a culture that prioritizes not only hiring, but then developing people and pulling out that healthy pride as opposed to rewarding and building up that ego side of things. And it is creating a language and the habits of speaking in terms of we when you are praising or thanking, and really using I when you're taking blame for or acknowledging failure. But what are the other things that you've seen, whether it's at Insight Global, things you've intentionally done, because I know you've been very intentional about that, and then also the ways in which you've seen companies transform to push that ego, that unhealthy ego out, and really build this healthy, take pride in what you're doing side of that characteristic up?
I'll tell you one of the simplest ways that's really, really effective is you fire the assholes. I mean, it's really
that's so good.
But it's really like, boy, what a message you're sending.
Yes.
Especially the successful assholes.
Oh my gosh, I have two in mind right now that you've done.
You spear those guys, it's over. People are like, oh, got it. Yeah, we're we then. Okay.
Yes.
And so, but because I remember, prior to, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago, we did have a culture of like, well, that person's really successful. And
so they're untouchable.
We're just going to have to put up with all their issues. And that, what you're really doing is you're just blessing that, that behavior to the rest of the organization. And your silence is actually quite loud in that way. And so no amount of success or no amount of one individual contributor being great is worth the sort of that negative, just like collateral damage that happens on a company from that really pride, arrogant jerk, right?
We were talking about that internally, but I remember in Dallas, I mean, probably 13, 14 years ago, when we were both there, you also fired a customer, essentially. And I remember I was a sales manager in the office at the time, and one of my account managers came back, and this was a customer who bought a lot from us. And I was a brand new leader, so I was unsure how to handle the situation, but the customer was inappropriate with this young sales girl and young saleswoman. And in my mind, trying to grapple with, okay, how do I give direction on this? Because this is a lot of revenue coming from a customer who's worked with us for a long period of time, but he is an egomaniac. And because he's an egomaniac, he thinks that he can act in a way that is completely inappropriate, making this person feel uncomfortable. And so in my mind, I was like, all right, Bert, so should I put a different account manager on it? Like, what should I...
We got to save this business.
What should I do? And you looked at me with such certainty and you said, we will never, ever talk to that customer again. There is no amount of money that is worth allowing one of our people that we treasure so much to ever feel that way. I was like, oh, we're allowed to do that? We can just not work with someone? And that was such a signal to me that made me realize, I need to value myself and I need to value my people. And that is worth so much more than money.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're running a startup and it's your only customer, it's a tougher decision. But for most people, that's not it, right? And it's all, nobody cares. It's fine. You can fire that customer and you'll never even feel it. You can let that asshole go and you'll never even feel it. Instead, probably you'll get a much more positive reaction, like from yourself and like from others that see that, to be like, okay, this is the new way then. Got it.
Yes.
You know what's funny, Katie? Two things. I remember where I was actually, Bert, when you had a call with our company 8 years ago to say, if someone's not a good person, please let them go. It was so impactful. I remember where I was when you had that call, because we actually celebrate a lot of individual achievement at IG.
Tons.
We love celebrating the individual Gritty Person of the Week and Gritty Person of the Year. And we celebrate individual achievement all the time. I think that's perfectly okay. I think that is great because individuals, that first part of our conversation, need to grow and they should be proud of how they've grown and we should celebrate them, right? I think you can actually have a culture where you celebrate individuals and whatever, as long as you're doing the stuff, Bert's, because you're building a healthy culture around it, right?
That's exactly right.
Like I think you can totally do that, and it can be incredibly healthy.
But and not to sound so certain myself, but I think really firing the jerks is, you sort of have to, not to say that's all of it, but that is like, you got to really, that is most of it, and you got to start there. And if you don't start there, everything else you say is hollow. Any kind of training you want to do in the organization about how we're going to act and how we're going to treat others well and how we're not going to let pride blind us to great decisions. I mean, none of it, it's all hollow. It doesn't ring true. It's ineffective if you still allow those people that are, the flies in the ointment.
It's so funny. I remember early in my career being in sales, you meet folks with a pretty significant ego and you meet some jerks that are customers. I remember kind of being younger in my career going, this is going to be interesting. I'm going to have to work with these people, whatever. What was so funny to watch is whenever you had that customer, it was always a short-term problem because they didn't last. Like the amount of bad eggs, bad people that you came across, and then just wait a little bit. It's not going to last because that person just doesn't thrive. It doesn't end well for them, right? Like it taught me, it was such a good example of what not to do. And then seems like it's such a no-brainer to not work with that customer because your partnership's going to be limited. Like when you have that bad ego-driven person, there's not that far that you can go. But when you have the customer that's a good person and they're awesome, who knows where you can go?
It's also, again,
right?
I'm thinking of a specific one in my head right now.
Super egomaniacs, super prideful. It's so embarrassing because what you're really communicating is, I'm so insecure, I'm so self-conscious that I've got to over-index on this other thing, that I'm so right because I'm so insecure myself. That is what that is. It's nothing else, that I'm certain about. When you are overly prideful, I'm not wrong. When you are egomaniac, it is because you are deep down really insecure. You're so unsure yourself,
right?
And it's like, we can see that, and that's awkward.
Interesting observation, but at the end of an athletic event, a sports game, and an athlete wins a championship or does something really amazing, and it's very clear they just did it. What do they most commonly do? What's the first thing many athletes do?
Thank God.
Exactly. That's it. Okay, so I was reading some really weird books at the end of last year which
I'm really happy that I got that right, by the way. I'm so excited.
No, but that's what they do, right? Well, because, and I used to think that was sort of not authentic. Like, and with some athletes, maybe it's not. But at the end of last year, like I was watching a specific event and someone did that. And I was like, oh, wait. And I was reading the weird books. I was like, oh, wait. Like, it was the first time I was like, wait, did you do that? Or you were like, this athlete meant it. It's like, were you so inspired by God? And were you given, like, kind of like Steve Jobs, like you were given that genetic ability, weren't you? And then there were probably hard moments where you clung to your faith. And then, you just beat that other team. But like, did you do it? Like, I don't know. It just kind of shook me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, because it's an interesting question. Did I do it?
It's clearly a sports gal.
Go sports.
Go sports and athletics. Speaking of pride, I'm more proud because my husband John's going to watch this. He's going to be like, wow, you really do pay attention. We have it on. But I do like talking about how that hits you. I do like those players more. You know, I'm more drawn to the players who thank God, their teammates, whomever, family. That's so much more endearing.
Totally.
It's such a lovely trait. And I don't know that I necessarily consciously attribute it to I like them because they just acknowledge someone else for their success. But if I break it down, I probably out of the top 10 athletes that I have a positive association with, if I were to go and replay the tapes, I bet that all 10.
Well, it's because they're communicating humility.
That's right.
Yes.
They're communicating a lack of the unhealthy pride. It's why we always love that person. You meet that person that's really talented, and pick a field, any field you want, business, sports. You meet the person that's you know as a total, like they're elite. They are elite. They're a badass.
Right.
But is so on your level, is so cool, doesn't speak above you.
Yes.
You love them.
Yes.
You were like, that is so cool. It's why Captain America is such a good character. Like, right? Versus Tony Stark. I mean, Captain America is like so genuine and amazing and is awesome and he's so humble. And I mean, like, why is he the favorite of the Avengers? That guy can just like kind of run fast and jump a little higher. That's all. It's all. And he's got a shield. Doesn't have a gun, but he's like super humble and people love that.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Steve Yeager as one of my favorite customers, and he was that. I mean, on a org chart and on a call sheet, I remember being very intimidated to call this guy. And I meet with him, and he was that. He's Captain America, and I'm just was.
And he kind of knows he is too, but he chooses nope.
It was like disarming. I just felt so at ease the first time I sat down with him, and we have maintained a friendship forever. Because even though every company he's been to, he is top notch. He continues to pull me in. He brings all of his senior leadership in, and he speaks like everybody is peers with him.
That's cool.
But he's up here.
There's
he
nothing
could talk
cooler
down
than
to
that.
us.
There's nothing cooler than being really good, really elite, really talented, and then really, really humble. That's the coolest thing
and what's
you could
great
ever
is
be.
that if you do that in a company, what happens then is you actually do pull the people around you up, and now you're leveling up the whole company. And isn't that the whole objective of being a leader? That's what you want to do.
100%. You're really smart, you're really talented, but you're really curious, and then you're pulling people up behind you, right?
Yeah. And thinking about just what outside forces can pull us to be kind of that unhealthy ego or unhealthy prideful. I've wondered about, you've got social media, you've got Instagram, and even like from a professional setting, LinkedIn. How do you, and I know that you have deleted all of these things, but you still have experience with them. How do you think about that impacting people or yourselves in their ego professionally and personally?
For sure. I got off Instagram a few years ago. Definitely worried about that for my kids too. LinkedIn, I'm not very active on, aside from just I love liking all of our people's posts. So I just got promoted, or just it's okay. So you'll see me liking them a lot. But it is such a brag. It's sort of I find it awkward. It's just so nobody cares that you did this thing. Nobody stop telling me how you started your business, and nobody cares. And so I think you got to be. But at the same time, I know some people are really on there to try to, hang on. They're trying to build their brand, and they're trying to sell their business. And so I totally respect that too. So it is really hard. But I think you just got to be really careful with those things, because you can see, particularly on LinkedIn, when people have tilted and they've gone too far.
Yeah, I think similarly, it's like, what is the underlying motivation? Like, where is that
you've got to play in that space, in that game for all kinds of reasons. But I think when you've transitioned into, well, now I'm just on here to try to brag all the time.
There's some cringe content on there.
Bert, you
there's
said
some
it
great
earlier.
content, but there's some bad.
You said it earlier, like we all have this thing.
Yeah.
It's in all of us, right? So what I'm always trying to do is I'm trying to go toward my purpose and go toward being better for others.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to be conscious, like in doing that, there is this other thing that you could be focused on where you're going toward your ego.
Yeah, totally.
And so,
I'm doing it for others to make them better.
Yes. But what I'm always trying to do is, okay, I'm not just trying to go toward my ego, because actually I've like tangibly found this. When I'm trying to go toward my ego and how the world perceives me, something goes wrong.
Yes.
When I'm trying to go toward doing good in the world and living on a purpose, things have a much better chance of going right.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, good or bad, when I'm over here going toward a purpose, well, at least I know I'm going to get better.
Yep.
And I'm going to be more authentic, more deep into my values, more me. Mm-hmm. When I'm like doing something for the way it's going to look to the outside world, like it's super common. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's hollow. It's not as fulfilling.
I've got a really good story about that. I'll have to tell you offline. I can't. It's not quite.
Oh, that's good. Now I'm interested.
That's too CEO-ish. I can't quite get into it here, but there's a good
Chat the
there.
Chief after dark.
No, that's great.
Chat the Chief after dark.
Coming next season.
So if everyone's ego were to completely disappear tomorrow from the workplace, what would happen?
I don't know that we'd have businesses. I'm a little worried, actually. We do need to
have less stuff to gossip about, probably.
So true.
Yeah. We would definitely
Did you hear her in that meeting?
There would definitely be less shit talking.
Yeah, which would be sad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, man, there's like moments though, Katie, that I hope we could all experience where, like when you are able to get rid of ego because you're focused on purpose. Mm-hmm. There's this thing that can happen where like time slows down and it's just like a one group of people who are able to get something awesome done. Mm-hmm. And it's like the best strength that Bert brings to the table and the best of Katie and the best of Steve. And it's like a transformer dinosaur monster. Oh. And it's able to go do something huge in the world. Like I think the less of the ego and pride and the kind of shitty, like let's hang on to old belief stuff that happens, mm-hmm. I think we'd be able to do more. And there's nothing I love more than those moments where you do something amazing because you all set yourselves aside and became like one.
Yes.
But I think that can be individualistic too. You can have really gigantic decisions that you have to make that are just you. They're just you. Nobody else can make that decision. What are you going to do, Madam President? And that's where it gets really simple. It's like, here's the purpose on the one side and the values, and then here's this other thing.
Yes.
And how do I choose?
Yes.
And to get to go through that mental torture chamber is such a treat. And it doesn't have to, that's not just a CEO thing. I mean, people at the entry level, in personals, I mean, they have those moments all the time that are those singular moments that only they'll know about.
Right.
They got to pick it. I think that the trick is make sure that you're present in that moment and that you can capture those thoughts in the moment to be like, okay, here's a decision to make. Do I go toward purpose and values or to this other destructive thing?
Gosh, that's so good, Bert.
My gosh.
That is what that's what I want everybody thinking about with everything in the age of social media.
Yes.
I want everybody asking themselves that question. Am I doing this because of my purpose and my values, or am I doing this because of my ego and because how I want the world to look at me? Mm-hmm. That's how we all have to be thinking about everything right now.
Well, and in the moment of being present and making those decisions, like it certainly is at the top, but it's everywhere in between. It's just, what is that invisible motivation that only I know about? There's such a tie to integrity. There's that in there that really that's the deciding factor in so much of this.
That is what I want every kid to hear. And I think it's so tough because they're like, how many likes did you get and how many followers do you have and all of that stuff. But what's interesting? There's so much more to it.
Why it's such a hard decision in the moment. Do I go toward purpose and values or to this destructive thing? The aftermath is almost 100% better when you go with this option. Mm-hmm. Better when you go with the purpose and values option. That you don't have the regret and the shame and the anxiousness and the wish I could go back in time. You hardly ever have that.
By the way,
answer, ever.
There's going to be backlash no matter which decision you make.
Right.
People are going to have something to say about it.
So at least feel good about it.
Nobody's going
to,
like, so much of us spend time going, what's the decision that I can make that everyone's going to like?
But all that stuff is noise, really, when it comes down to like you yourself that has to live with yourself.
That's it.
Like you can't escape yourself. You can't escape like that anxious feeling when you know that you made this other decision. That's always there. But whenever it's, you can make a decision a lot of people don't like, but if you know that it's in line with you, then it's that noise just kind of, you don't really care as much about it.
100%.
I think what I take away from this, if I were to go back to your Freudian definition, is that we all have this thing within us, and it's up to us to determine if it turns into ego or healthy pride. And it's a conscious decision that you have to make every day in every decision. And that's how you show up to the world. That's how you show up for yourself. And it really can make a meaningful difference in the quality of your life. And it's a choice that you have to make.
Well said.
Well, thank you guys so much.
I think you put a bow on it, Kate.
Love chatting with you all about this. Welcome to Chat the Chief, the section where you get to ask your questions to Bert Bean, the chief himself. Our first question comes in from an anonymous writer where they want to know what type of media you're consuming and specifically what you are interested in. Bert?
Oh, okay. Media. So I read the Wall Street Journal every day. It's the Wall Street Journal app. It's a great app. I mean, it gets right into the news. It's also probably a very CEO newspaper to read. So I read that.
That tracks.
I listen to both sides of the aisle on satellite radio. I listen to MSNBC, I listen to Fox News, I listen to CNBC. I'm always at work, like, you know, I can never just sit around and watch TV in the morning, but if I did, I would watch Squawk Box on CNBC. I love that telecast. I listen to it on my drive in. I like to read for pleasure at night, and so it's either a lot of history or it is, right now I'm reading Lord of the Rings. It's great. Fellowship of the Ring.
That's very cool. Very neat. Okay, now I'm just personally curious. Are we a Kindle guy? Are we on the iPad? Or are you physical, old school?
Yeah.
We turning the pages, licking the thumb?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I like a Kindle because it's so accessible. You can pick it up and start reading. I'm not one of those that's like, I just gotta feel the hard book. There's a whole group of people that are like, I would never do that. But I think it's because they've never tried a Kindle. It's fantastic. My problem is I just leave them on airplanes so much. I mean, I've lost like 4 Kindles on airplanes.
Yeah, they're light.
I can keep up with the book a little bit more. So right now, I left a Kindle on an airplane a few weeks ago, so I'm reading the actual paperback version of the book.
But it's not for a high horse reason. It's just practical.
Yeah, because when we're, like Anna's reading, she's lights her off. I got to have my light on to read my book in bed. And it's like, how much longer are you going to read? And then I'm a slow reader because I like to be a careful reader. And so I'm like, just one more page, please. But I know that I'm keeping her up, and I don't need that stress before bed. Yeah.
All right. Good to know.
But that's,
Good to know.
That's us, yeah.
I just like to write too much. I like to write in the book. I need the books I can write. Anyway, I did not craft this question, but I could have because I also really loved your Get Ready With Me video in Austin. Great video. This person wants to know, do you have any tips to make getting up at 4 a.m. suck less?
I try to be in bed. I try to be in bed by 9:30. I don't know if you're asleep by then, but try to be getting in bed by 9:30.
Yeah.
And then you just got to mentally get past that. It's sort of hard.
Because the 4s are kind of gnarly.
Yeah.
Like I can do the 5s, that's fine. The 4s are like, it's spooky in the 4s.
Yeah, but
right?
But you can also do things like, you don't have to do that every day. I mean, if you're not doing that big of a workout, you can get up at 5 or something, or 5:30. But just don't be a wimp.
That's what we need.
That's the big deal.
I like it. The hard truth.
I feel like I asked the question, but I didn't.
All right. If anyone else is brave enough to chat the chief, feel free to submit your questions to chatthechief@insightglobal.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining today. Thanks, boys.
See you next time.
Wrap it up.